Posts that are going in out there, and it's got to be exactly the same. If he makes any mistakes, he will not get paid until he's done it properly.
Properly, you know? Right, fair enough.
They've had a bit of an argument with him already because something's done wrong out there.
So they pull them out here.
Yeah, that's a catching pen. Yeah. See, the pen-up boys, they call them. They'd run them out of the yards there, up a ramp down the other end of this shed. Into that alleyway on the other side there, see?
All right.
And they'd fill that right up. See, they've got gates every so far. They'd lock that lot in, bring another lot up, pack them in and shut the next gate and so forth, right back to the ramp. Then the pen-up boys would come in up here and they'd open the gates and they'd draft them into here, fill these pens up ready for the shearers to start work.
And then once they're finished, we get pushed down the chute.
Back out of here.
Yeah, the shearer would walk in there and he'd grab a sheep by the front legs. They always grab them by the front legs and flip them over on their butt, drag them out here, get him positioned right, and then pull on the rope on the shearing machine, and away he'd go. And he'd shear him, and then he'd push him down the chute there and into the count-out pen then. And there's count-out pens for every shearer, see, there's 20 of them. There's two shearers to that little pen, wouldn't take them long to clean it out.
No.
Particularly this fella here, because he was always the gun shearer in the shed. Number one.
Number one.
And he was I always work on number one in every shed. If it's a gun shearer, he's the best shearer. He's the quickest. He can shear more sheep in a day than what the other fellas can, you know.
Oh, they have competitions too, I suppose. Who can be number one?
And every 2 hours, top quality wool. That is 23 microns, that wool. That'd get a prize, I reckon, we put in the show next year. To tell them the microns, you know how to tell the microns in it? See the zigzag in that wool?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, well, the bigger, look how big that is. When you have a look at this next one, you'll notice the difference. It's 19 or 20 microns. It's a lot smaller, and that's a finer wool too, that one, than this one. But you can feel that lanolin in it. Feels nice and soft.
Soft,
Yeah, but that's a heck of a lot of wool off one sheet.
Is that polyester? I suppose polyester coming in wrecked the wool thing too.
Oh, it probably wouldn't have helped anyway.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's just all the wool bins where they kept the different classes of wool.
Oh, yeah,
Well, mainly AAAs up there, pigskin they are.
Okay.
Oh, right.
Why is that? Because it's sweaty work? Or?
Yeah, they're more comfortable. A lot of people ask me that question. I think it's just like you go home if you're wearing boots with high heels or ladies with their stilettos.
Backs in your older age.
When I first come to live in Blackall, after I sold my property down at Colby there, I come out here, you know, I'd say to a mate of mine who's over the road, old fella, he said, "Will you work up there?" Nice looking. Yeah, that's the 1920 micron.
Oh, you can definitely see the difference.
I used to get out here.
Finer.
It's a lot finer. Yeah. And smaller microns in the wool too. It's not as big as that up there.
Still soft.
Okay.
It's all lovely.
I won't tell you because that was spoiled.
Never been restored. Jesus. It's very,
Good nick.
Good nick, Well, it just showed you the stuff they used. I mean, it might be hard work.
We'll see how it works. The rakes are just like oversized garden rakes. And there's all the prongs on them, but they're staggered, just like putting your right hand fingers through your left hand fingers, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, and you can work it out yourself, Nelly. It's easy to work out. You see how one takes the wool from the other. See that one there went through there? It'll take it up to here, this one's coming back to meet it. And it'll take it from that one up to that one. That's how it works.
And what was the powder that was used in this one again?
What's the what?
The powder?
In this one, soda ash.
Soda ash.
Soda ash, yeah.
It is slow, isn't it?
How it joins up though, they go into each other.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then once you've got the other end there, see that big cluster lifting up there now?
Yeah.
Well, all those spikes on it, it'll grab a whole big bunch of wool there then, when it'll drop down in a minute, see? Then it'll go forward, and that's when you have to push the wool through the double round. And on the elevator. The elevator's gone there now, because the men were working in here. And they took the elevator off the stage.
And then they take it and go into that next section.
That's the same.
And then that's a soap wash.
Then through the two rings.
And then 2 rinses, a foam, and a dryer.
Over now through this one, that one there.
This is the new one.
Awkward, nearly done. This is 1.5. So we'll go over this one now. You just wait here, I'll start this box up.
No, Jonas. Can you,
Oh, look.
yeah. Thank you. Oh, wow.
This one here is called the wool loader. I only needed one man on this one, because it's like a semi-automatic, this one. And his job was to just roll his bale over here, the same as Andy over there, open it up, and then his main job was to keep that bin full all the time, see, full of water. Down the bottom, you'll see a wooden slatted elevator turning that way, and that used to keep the pressure on the wool in the box to push it up against the vertical one with the row of nails on it.
Yeah.
The wool will get caught on the nails, up it will go and under that plate there that's going up and down. And what it used to do is used to comb the wool, knock any loose bits off and back into the box. Then the wool will carry on over the top, and because it's on an angle, it'd slip off the nails because they'd be real slippy from the nylon anyway. And then it'd drop onto a steep chute here and spear it straight down into the soda ash steamed hot water then. So we go up here. I don't like that thing, I wouldn't like to work around that crank handle on there.
No.
That's actually in there pretty broken.
It'd hurt too.
That must have been if they had something go wrong here, they could turn it by hand. That's all I can work out with it.
Yeah, hand crank it.
Hand crank it, yeah. Now there's the chute where the wool would slide down then into the water. That cluster of 3 rakes there would grab it, and they'd pull it into these fellas here, see? Now I made my own name up for this row of 3 here. I call them the dog paddlers because they remind me of the dog paddlers. They'd walk it all the way through, and you can see they're all independent the way they work on those 2 cranks there, see? And I could just imagine the wool in there in the water, you know, it'd be like a washing machine.
Yeah.
A lot better than that one over there. And then once you got the other end, the same as that one over there, the big cluster there would push it through the ringer, up the elevator and into the soap wash at 60 degrees. From there, through the 2 rinse tubs and into the dryers.
It's amazing that the whole pulley system along the whole line is still working.
Yeah, well, yeah. Well, there's 72 pulleys in here and about 1 kilometre of belts. Look at that big long one over the side there. Another long one down there too. 2 wooden pulleys. There's 2 wooden pulleys on that bottom one just there. See those 2 there? Yeah, then there's wooden. All the rest are steel except for this one here. That big second one there, that's a wooden one. All the rest are steel. And then all the little oil bottles, they gravity feed the bushes on the shaft. They're all brass bushes with no bearings. Now they did make some lemon soap here. So they couldn't harvest the lemon here either. That's another thing I didn't tell you. They couldn't keep the lemon because they didn't have a separation plant to separate the lemon from the water, see? But they did harvest some somehow because I worked it out that it's just like you put oil in water, oil will float on the top. So when they stopped these machines, the lemon would settle on the top, so they must have scraped it off somehow and put it through a strainer or something. And they made lemon soap in that big round coppery looking vat over there. Anyway, when they put it on the market to sell it, nobody wanted to buy it. And the reason for that was because see, sheep are dipped, which we're talking about in the shearing shed, and sheep dipped back in those days had arsenic in it. So nobody wanted to buy it. I'm damned to buy every cow that's got an arsenic in it. Put it in your mouth, I might be idiot.
Yeah.
You wouldn't feed them to the dogs.
Cattle, I can remember the cattle, you know, yeah, we used to feed our dogs, but now I wouldn't.
Yeah,
I mean, you can go out to a restaurant and it costs you a fortune, 2 hands they give you. That's a meal. Yeah, they charge for the privilege, actually.
they do. Well, beef steer too, of course.
Yes.
Now that's the 2 rinse stuff, see?
Oh, yeah.
You got your first wash up the top end that you saw working. There, with the soda ash being hot water. Then you got your soap wash. Then the first rinse here, and the same system with through the ringers up the elevator into the second rinse. See? And everything works exactly the same. That's why we don't run it. It's just too much wear and tear, and we haven't got the staff to maintain it all. No, we only wear it out. And it's too valuable. So then when it comes out of the ringers in the last rinse here, it went onto that elevator and through the final ringer on the back of the dryer. Once it went inside the dryer, it went onto a vertical elevator. Took the wool right up to the top, see, in the dryer there. And when it got to the top, you'll see all those rails along the side. Now what they drive inside is what they call walking floors. Same as what a B-double semi-trailer's got inside. Have you ever seen them? And well, I always show the tours with my hands because a lot of people have never seen inside a B-double semi-trailer.
No, I haven't, no.
They walk backwards and forwards like that, see?
Oh, right.
Yeah. Okay, so we work on the top two rails. Don't worry about the rest, because what I tell you about those top two, all the rest work the same. So as the wool's going, because it was full flow of wool all the time until they'd finished that particular grade. You see, they'd run it right out, then get all the wool out, then they'd start on a new grade. But it was just a full flow all the time. Okay, so the wool, once it went off the elevator, it dropped onto the first walking floor there on the top rail there. So they walk back like that, and that is all wool on here, of course. And as it's going backwards, it's walking the wool off, because they've got like little spikes walking along, see? And it drops onto the second one underneath it, but the second one's going back the other way then. It's a zigzag, backwards and forwards, all the way right through, till it gets to the bottom one. And then when it got to the bottom one, it carried the wool out on the elevator up the other end there, all nice and white and clean and dry. To dry it, down there where that light is, there's a big blower down under there, under each dryer. And that's how they dry it.
Reminds me of the Donkey Kong game where you got to jump barrels and it's zigzag.
Now these are the only, like I said, both these lines and all that, the big boiler out there and the steam engine and everything else, all came out from England on steamships, but these didn't, they came from USA, these big blowers.
Oh, right.
Look at the size of the outlet on that thing. It's like a big turbo.
And they still look exactly like that in basketball stadiums when they're drying the floor.
So that's how they dried the wool, with the big blower down there. So they used to blow air up through the floor. You can imagine how much blast would come out of those things.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and some of the people said, where did the wool go? Did it blow it out the top? I said, no, I told you it come out on that bottom one. That's all enclosed up there on the top. And all those walking floors are sort of perforated so the air can go right through each one.
So yeah, that's a big blower down under here.
That's it.
So that's,
Yeah, and then it carried it out. See those little spikes there? How it can walk the wool up? Well, that's the way the spikes are on those walking floors in there. See, it can't slip back. It takes it out. So that is scoured wool hanging on the end of that elevator there, nice and white and fluffy. Yeah, you'll see it there if you go a bit further. And it dropped into the bin here, same on that line over there with that blower, and it blew it up through this big tube here and around and into a ducting. It goes right along the top of, there's 5 wool bins on this side, there's 6 on that side. There's something else on this end, that's why there's only 5 this side, there's 11 all up. So it went into this ducting on the top, you see, and then along the top, on the outside of the ducting, there's a plank. And a man would go up a ladder here and walk along the plank, see? And he got to lean over and open a door on, say, number 5 bin down the other end. So I use this railing on for the tours. We're at number 5 here. Number 1's way up that end, which is up here. He pushed his steel door in, and it'd go up against the wall of the ducting. It's longer than what the ducting is wide, which means it'd jam, see, on an angle. And they wanted it like that to spear the wool in, see. They didn't want to put any stops for the door if it went straight across. That'd be no good, because the wool would just build up back here if they one there across or something, or had the stops there, I should say, and it'd get caught and block the whole chute, you know. So, and that's how it used to blast it into the bins up there. They're huge big bins. They're only little things over there in that shearing shed. They're monsters. They go right up to the roof. And they've got cans right up to the roof all the way around each one, so that the wool couldn't get blown out of there. With these things to be blown, the wool around up there like snow, right there. Once the wool comes out like that, nice and white and clean, it's lost 50% of its weight. Half its weight's gone because of the laminin, the dirt, bird seeds and all that that's got to come out, you know? Yeah. But it's still worth a lot more money than what greasy wool is.
Oh, yeah.
You can't earn the greasy wool until it's clean, don't you? So this is where they pressed it then. 2 men worked up the top there, and they'd fill that top box up. And when they filled it to the top, one man would have to jump in it then and tramp it down.
Oh, sure.
Otherwise you got no weight in it, you know,
Yeah.
just like a box full of feathers. And they'd pack it tight to the top. Once it was packed to the top, there's one man down, he'd operate the pressing the belts on this floor here, see? He'd go around behind it and wheel it over on those wheels there, over to here, over the top of the bale and the bottom box. Once he'd done that, he'd pull that door out of the road, that wool would just go whoosh, straight down into the bale and the bottom box. He'd push it back, shut the door, they'd fill it quickly again. That's why there was two up there to fill it quickly. It was all done by hand. And once they'd packed it tight again, he'd wheel it over, pull the door. That wool's not going to go anywhere because it's going to sit on the first box full, down in the bale.
Yeah.
That's not a problem because this man's job then was with the big steam engine driving all these pulleys and this press here, he'd get onto this lever and he would shift the belt onto that inside pulley there. That's the drive for that big steel plate called the monkey up there.
Oh,
And it would come down through that box and press all that wool right out of that box and push it down on top of the wool that come out of the first box full. He'd take it down a fair way because otherwise it's going to spring back up, you know. And he'd know exactly where to reverse it. Then he'd have to switch the belt over onto that pulley on the left side. That was the reverse for that steel plate to bring it back up out of the road, see? Once he'd done that, he would push it back, shut the door, they'd start filling while he finished off with the bale, man, see? So what he had to do, he had to put these 4 flaps over the top of the wool, see? There's 4 of them. And he used these 4 pins to pin the corners of the 2 flaps here, the 2 there, the 2 there, the 2 there. That's only temporary because he had to open the door, roll the bale over and put it in through another press now. And that's called the double dump press. Now this is starting to make sense because it's lost half its weight, hasn't it?
Yeah.
But when the bale comes out of that press there, it comes out with 190 kilo, same as that sea bale he's got there, it comes out only half the length. That one squashes it right down. Imagine 190 kilo wool in half the size of the bale. So we go over here. This is an air compressor. It had a belt on this pulley here off that one up there with the engine driving it. And there's an air line that comes from it, across under the floor. And under this base part here, there's like a hydraulic type of ram, a vertical one. And it's worked by air, of course. And so they put the bale in there, make sure all the 4 flaps are straight, then they pull the pins out, and then they'd release the air from the compressor, and it'd bring the bale up this way. Not like then they all go down, this one goes upwards. And they'd bring it up to about, I will show the tools, it'd be about the size of the bale when they stopped it and locked it in, see? Once they'd done that, then the men would get this strap here, that's called hoop on, nice and flexible, and it's got to be too, because when they release the pressure on this bale, it's going to want to expand sideways, it's going to want to blow up this way. And what it does with that, it just pulls because it's nice and flexible, it stretches it to nice little round corners, and they put 3 of these on these bales, whereas on the normal bales like that one up there, they put 2. And you got your 3 slots, see? So I go through this one at the start, over the top of the bale, around the back of the bale, down underneath the bale, back here to join it. You'd have another one on this side to even it up, and they put another one in the middle. And then they'd release the air, and it'd go down, and it'd stretch that bale with the round corners with this sort of curved around. Roll it over there, put it on the scales, and weigh it, and it's got to be around 190 kilos, as long as we're just under the 200. And they put the markings on the bale, the stencil markings, 190, and then they would put the property name on the bale. It's always the property name, not the owner's name that goes on the bale.
Oh, right.
Yeah, and a bit of other data, whatever they put on them, and then they'd store it here till the train came. And that's the loader, where they used to load the train. There's a loop line comes in along here. There's a railway wagon, you might have seen it out there on the line that goes back on the main line of town. Yeah. And this is where they load the train, man. And they really like the smaller bales because they fit twice as many of the same weight as the big bales into their wagons. And they reckon the shipping companies are the ones that really like it because they're going overseas for export wool. And they can get twice as many on the deck with the same weight. Yeah. Now, ladies, I've got a video for you to go look at and talk about the restoration of the Wool Scour. It's owned by the community of Blackall. They're the ones that say it is. It's the only one of its like left in the world. The steam grip. There's 52 of these in Australia today. This is the only one there. And the people in Blackall, this is another way. This one will sell it off the scrap, you know. Yeah. This floor, of course, it's been put down, 2002. And that's Jarrah timber from Western Australia. Okay, so I'll whack this
It's
on.
amazing how they like to get rid of history.
Yeah, that's right.
No shit. So this is where we were meant to camp. You can see yellow posts in the water that are under the water. They're actually water. They give you free, well, they give you water here. It's $10 a night. But as the sign said, it's subject to flooding, and the Blackall River is actually a little bit behind the tree line there. And it has completely flooded and it's burst its banks. Apparently they got 400 mil in 4 hours the other day. You can see where the water came up to, and it's starting to recede now. So for our last night, we couldn't, well, any of the nights we couldn't camp here. So our last night in Blackall, we camped up there at the, well, it's not a free camp as such, but there's no water there. However, it's nice and flat and it's above the flood mark, which is great. So yeah, the Blackall River has burst its banks in Blackall.